path to prosperity, I believe that America's best days can still be ahead, and I want to lead us forward. Join me now in the Read Revolution.
Well, it's so civilized to start this program at 10 o'clock in the morning instead of starting at 5:30 in the morning or 6 o'clock in the morning. I am really enjoying the new schedule here. Makes me very envious of Rush Limbaugh. What was his show was from noon to 3, and that was before everybody could listen to the program anytime they wanted to. You know, this show is available on Apple and Spotify, and then of course if you're scrolling through on Facebook and Twitter and the other social channels that are out there, depending on which social media you engage in, you can listen to it anytime. And my neighbors, it was weird. I was out the other day, and my neighbors who also walk their dogs, you know, Alonzo and I have two big Siberian Huskies, Jax and Teddy Roosevelt. One looks like a wolf and one looks like a big teddy bear. So that's Teddy Roosevelt. And we're out with the dogs, and the neighbor is listening to what the podcast version of this. So it was probably, I don't know, 10 hours after we did the show live, and they're listening to the podcast while they're out walking the dogs in the neighborhood, and we're out walking the dogs. So that was I mean, I felt good about that, you know, that people were actually, that I'm not just talking to an empty room, that they're actually people who are listening to this. So good morning to you, or afternoon, or, you know, evening or nighttime, whenever you're listening to the Read Revolution podcast. I'm John Reed, and really glad that you are with us on this Wednesday. There's lots to talk about, and I don't have all the details here. And remember, I was a TV reporter for a long time, for a decade, and I always and I hope that if you watched me on television and you listened to me on the radio, you reach the conclusion that I'm not the first person out of the gate to repeat gossip. In fact, I try not to repeat gossip. If I did, the stuff you would have heard about people, about celebrities, about people in DC, about people at the Capitol in Richmond. I mean, people call me and tell me stuff to be polite all the time. So I mean, if I told you about some of the stuff I heard about the Richmond City Council, about different mayors, I mean, it would blow you away, the stuff that people call and tell me. And, you know, if it's personal stuff like a divorce or, I don't know, ugly things in someone's family, that's not my business. I mean, you could use it to try to harm someone, but my goal is not to harm people. It's not I mean, I've got a pretty strong sense personally of what's my business and what's not my business. If you were trying to stomp on my rights, then yeah, I'm going to talk about things related to that. But if you and your wife, or you and your husband, you and your boyfriend or girlfriend, whatever it is that you're up to, I mean, that's not my business. Unless you're a hypocrite. You know, I've said if you're breaking the law or you're a hypocrite or you're just flat out lying about something, then it becomes fair game in politics. But I try not to make things personal. It's one reason I was so offended by what went down last year with my campaign, but I want to get distracted by that. So my point is, people call and tell me stuff all the time. And early this morning, I got a phone call from someone who says that there is anti-ICE training that's about to happen in, oh my God, Western Henrico, which is where I live. It's where I grew up. And I chose to purchase a home in Western Henrico, even though I think Alonzo, who's a big city guy, would have enjoyed living in the Fan, would have enjoyed being in Richmond, you know, kind of the yuppie. You go for drinks, you go for dinner, there's activity on the sidewalk. You hope it's not a murder or a stabbing or a rape or, you know, an attack. But most evenings, it's going to be something just very pleasant, especially in the Fan, right? But I told Alonzo, this is almost a decade ago when we were looking for a place to live, coming back to Richmond. I said, you know, Western Henrico is safe. We don't have to worry about the crazies coming to Western Henrico. The cops keep people under control. Most people aren't radicals here anyway. They've got to get up in the morning. They got to do a job. They got to work. They have children. They don't want their children exposed to a lot of craziness. You know, you can go to the comedy club. You can go to the mall. There are a couple of restaurants and bars and things that are nice, but they're not open till 4 in the morning. People don't come out stumbling drunk. You don't have drug addicts shooting up in the alleyway. I mean, it's the place you want to live if you're coming to Central Virginia, unless you want to go out into a rural area like Hanover. So I'm going to tell you about this with a big asterisk that this is something that I have not confirmed. And I'm loath to talk about anything that I haven't personally confirmed. But I am told now by 2 or 3 people who I trust, this is the danger, I trust them because they've given me good information in the past, that in the next 2 days, there is a very, very organized national group that is coming into Western Henrico to train people on how to attack ICE officers. Now, the language they're using is de-escalation techniques. Okay. Okay, you're smart. I'll give you, if you wind up in court, you want to have emails that talk about de-escalation, right? But come on. Do you believe that? I don't believe that. And the truth is, let's be honest, that Governor-elect Abigail Spanberger, who will become governor on Saturday, this coming Saturday, the new governor, I think she's pretty much told all of us she's going to try to make Virginia a sanctuary city, a sanctuary state for illegals. So is she going to go to war with ICE officers? If I were a reporter still, I'd be down at the Capitol today asking that question, like, what the hell, lady? What do you think of what's about to happen in Western Henrico, and how are you going to deal with it? So the General Assembly begins today, and one of the key players in what's going to happen at the Capitol is the leader of the Republicans in the House of Delegates, Delegate Terry Kilgore, and he is with us this morning. I appreciate you joining us, and I know you got to run in just a couple of minutes for your caucus meeting, but you want to give me a quick reaction to that? And again, the asterisk, I don't know what's actually going to happen, but what do you think?
Well, I mean, I think it's bad. It's really, I mean, if in Western Henrico, I think when I think of Western Henrico, I think of suburbs, safe. I mean, I hope that we do not go there. Surely we can learn a lesson from what happened in Minnesota, that you do not need to interfere with law enforcement, whether they're, local law enforcement, FBI, ICE. You just do not need to interfere with law enforcement. People get hurt when that happens. So I hope that doesn't happen, and I hope that the governor, when she takes office, will backtrack from some of her statements that she made the other night on Colbert about not cooperating with ICE and putting fear in folks unnecessarily. I think it stoked the fire. And I think the president shot back at her yesterday that, we're going to withhold federal monies if you become a sanctuary city or sanctuary state. So, we don't need to be getting into that fight. We need every dollar that we can get from the federal government to make Virginia operate. So hopefully we won't go down that road.
Yeah, look, if Abigail Spanberger wants to be successful, and I'm not rooting for her failure, because then that's bad for everybody. I mean, I don't want her to succeed in going way crazy left. But if she shows up on Saturday, and everybody should listen to her speech, if part of that speech is by name or subtly attacking Donald Trump, like throughout the campaign, I'm going to be the anti-Trump, we're in trouble here. We need somebody who's going to lead Virginia in a responsible way. What's your vibe at the Capitol? You've been back for a couple of days. The session starts today. Are they hostile already there? Or?
No, it's not been hostile yet. we will see. Today is going to be a big day, John, because I think the constitutional amendments are going to be pushed on us today. The redistricting one that's a terrible one. We voted for bipartisan redistricting a few years back by a 2/3 margin across the state, and now because other states are doing this, we're going to, we want to react because Orange Man is bad. That's not the way. That's not the Virginia way. we had an opportunity back when Bill Howe was Speaker. The Senate Republicans pushed a midterm redistricting, which would have given the Senate Republicans control of the Senate. And we pushed back and said, hey, that's not the Virginia way. We're not going to participate in that. Of course, the Senate, they were mad at us for a while over that. But
so I want to be clear. You're saying the
Yeah.
historical context, Republicans had the opportunity to jam
Yes.
this down the Democrats' throat, and cooler heads, fair-minded people prevailed and said, let's
Yes.
not do that. Let's be fair with everybody. The voters have spoken. Let's not take advantage of the sword we've got. And maybe Democrats should take that as an example here.
Yeah, I mean, but they've got too many national pressures coming on them. And I think Hakeem Jeffries has called and said, hey, we need this many, whether it's 10-1 or 9-2, but that's not Virginia. We're a, 6-5 state. That's basically what we are when you look at it. Are there some, like there's some races that are more competitive than others, and maybe it would go to a 7-4 state. But we're not a 10-1 state. We're not a 9-2.
No, just look at the election results from 2025. Republicans, myself included, we were defeated. But you look at the numbers, it ain't 10-1.
No, it's not even close. And then the other one that's coming up, there'd be 4 that would come up, but the 2 that I'm really focused on right now would be the other one's the abortion amendment, which goes far beyond we would be way outside of even California, because it would allow an abortion in that 3rd trimester if a doctor signed off on it, and that doctor can be the abortionist. So, I mean, come on, let's follow the science. Let's look at viability like other states have looked at viability. I'm pro-life. I've always been pro-life. That's where I'm going to stand. But if we have to have an abortion amendment, and who are we protecting? Virginians have you got a trifecta here in Virginia. Why do we need a constitutional amendment right now? I just don't understand what the rush is.
Yeah, day of birth abortion is the turning point for a lot of people who I know, who I still talk to and still try to be friendly with, who are pro-choice, 100% pro-choice. But when I talk about that 3rd trimester day of birth abortion, man, they wince and don't like it.
Yeah, I mean, I look at my 3 little granddaughters, John, Nola, Kylie, and Ruby May, all 3 and under. And I'm looking at those beautiful young granddaughters and say, hey, I mean, this is barbaric. If we go, we're gonna set ourselves apart from anywhere in the nation, and I just think it's wrong. It's not the Virginia way.
So these constitutional amendments, could they truly just move through like lightning today?
Oh yeah, I expect that to happen, John, and I expect that I expect we're going to be voting on all these in April, and we've got to get fired up more in the within our party, within the conservative movement. I was very proud of what you did during the campaign of going out, getting in your car, burning the shoe leather, going to the fairs, going to the, just going out. That's what we've got to do. We've got to start connecting more with our voters, doing everything on social media or doing everything on blibs on TV. That doesn't get our candidates known. That doesn't get people fired up. We left 500,000 votes on the table this year. And that's my fault. That's my fault. That's everybody's fault. I mean, I'll take my ownership for it, because in my district, I bet we had 10,000 less votes that Glenn Youngkin got and that you all did not get. And that's on all of us.
Well, I've been asking everybody this question, and it's uncomfortable. Nobody is more unhappy about what's about to happen on Saturday than I am.
But I have to be here, John.
You got to be present for it. I'm getting out of town, so I don't have to actually see it. But it's hurtful when you lose, especially when you really have put a lot of effort. I lost a year of income, and it's a bad situation for me, if I'm being honest. What do you think went wrong for Republicans in 2025? And you can be honest. I mean, it might hurt my feelings, but I need you to tell me the truth. What do you think?
I just think we didn't have the party apparatus that the Democrats had. Their DPV was much more organized. I mean, it's just a crazy time. We got outspent 4-1 in the House, and in the governor's race, it was a lot more than that. You spend that kind of money, but then the shutdown killed us up in D.C.
Right.
And a bunch of the layoffs in D.C. And finally, our people checked out. I don't know what happened to them. They just checked out and said, "Oh, Trump's the president. We're happy. Let's just move on." That's. But now,
was that it, or were they upset that I was running?
No.
Newsom, Jason. I mean, there's no politician or candidate that you can't pick apart if you want to pick them apart.
Oh,
that's just the truth, right? So.
I mean, listen, John, I got more, as far as my percentage of votes, more than anybody across the state. But if you look at, my folks, I heard nothing about that. It was just that in order to get folks fired up, you got to show up. Mm-hmm. And when folks don't show up, they don't know who you are, and that was the problem. And
well, I drove out.
Oh, I know you did
26 times because I knew that. I was like, the folks
in
the Southwest don't know me. They don't listen to the radio in Richmond, so I got to go meet them. So that's one thing. You mentioned the money, though.
Yeah.
Abigail spent $60 million to run for governor. Winsome spent $40 million. It blows my mind that much money was spent to claim the governorship of Virginia. How do Republicans make up that difference and stay competitive, especially now that we're deeply in the minority?
Well, we're going to have to change our strategy on raising money. Our folks, our rank and file is going to have to get more involved on helping us raise money. We're going to have to go out of state like the Democrats do to the billionaires, the Republican billionaires, and Republicans need to step up and give and give and give, because if we don't, this is what we're going to have. And we'll see how bad it's going to get. They talk about affordability, but all the bills that I'm looking at doesn't make anything more affordable here that I can see.
Increasing the minimum wage.
Yeah.
You might see a tiny little increase in your paycheck, but those prices are going up. It's economics 101 that these Democrats don't understand.
And you live in a border area like I do, where Tennessee hasn't increased their minimum wage. But, most of these people are paying, like your grocery stores and everything, they're paying $10, $12 an hour. But if you start jumping that up to 15, places are going to close, and, they're just going to say, hey, drive 6 more miles over into Kingsport or somewhere like that, and we'll get you over there. And restaurants, I worry about restaurants. Restaurants always have top margins anyway. Yeah. So, it's going to be, buckle up. We've got, and thank you so much for starting your podcast, because, we got to get the word out on how we fight this, how we move forward with our conservative movement, what we need to do. But, this is one way that we can get it out there. So, and I do like it that you start at 10 o'clock.
Me too, man. That 6 o'clock stuff is for the birds, right?
And I want to hear this gossip you're talking about.
Well, we'll find out in the next 2 days. Will we have a bunch of crazy national leftists descend on Western Henrico to mobilize angry radicals to fight ICE? I mean, I haven't run into any ICE people. I don't think I've seen that in Western Henrico. But we'll keep watching it to see. Listen, I know you got to run to the caucus meeting. I really appreciate you joining us. Let's talk a few times through the session. Put on your armor and get into the good fight.
And thank you for stepping up for the Commonwealth. We really appreciate it. Thank you for getting out and running those miles up on your car. Welcome to my life, John Reed.
Yeah. Well, we both love Virginia, and we got to protect Virginia and Virginians, and somebody's got to do it.
Hey, for such a time as this, you're where you are, and where I am. Okay.
Terry Kilgore, the leader of the Republicans in the House of Delegates, thank you very much. All right, let's take a quick break. Listen, my friend Mike Emanuel, the chief Washington correspondent for Fox News, will join us in a couple of minutes. I'll update you on this story that I'm still trying to nail down. I want to be clear about the anti-ICE training that I'm told is about to happen in Western Henrico, of all places, and a couple of other news tidbits here as we get closer and closer to this inauguration of the Democrats taking over the state on Saturday. What do you do about it? We'll talk about it as we continue on the Read Revolution.
As we begin America's 250th anniversary, let's take a moment to honor all veterans of all wars and remember when brave Americans stood up for their beliefs. Let's remember the signers of the Declaration of Independence who risked their lives and fortunes for the American experiment and American patriots from the Revolution, clad in tricorn hats, armed with muskets, who converted the dream of a land of the people, by the people, and for the people into reality. And let's not forget their sacrifice almost was for naught when our young republic faced another test in 1812. Fast forward to the Civil War, where brother fought against brother, and the sons and grandsons of the signers of the Declaration met each other on the field of battle. Here's a Confederate soldier, rugged and determined, defending his home and family, many times in his own community. Let's jump to 1898. This Spanish-American war soldier, black and white, north and south, many whose fathers and grandfathers confronted each other on the field of battle, united under one flag to fight common foe. World War I brought a new era of war in foreign lands. Our soldier is equipped with a helmet and a sense of duty, facing the horrors of trench warfare in the war to end all wars. Almost 1 in 5 of our soldiers was foreign-born, highlighting America's ethnic melting pot. Then came World War II. The American soldier confronts evil abroad, while his mother and sister filled crucial labor shortages, working in riveting, welding, and assembly back home. This soldier embodies resilience, donning a uniform that symbolizes hope and sacrifice. Now let's look at the global war on terror. Our modern soldiers are equipped with unimaginable advanced technology, ready to face new challenges. Each era, each soldier, represents a chapter in our history worthy of remembering and of honoring. From the Revolution to today, their stories intertwine, showcasing the evolution of service and the American spirit of liberty, patriotism, and independence that inspires us all. These brave men and women have shaped our nation, fighting for the America we hold dear. This year, let's celebrate our American inheritance, honor the memory of all our veterans of all wars, and remember the sacrifices that brought us to where we are today, and commit to renewing the American dream for the next generation of Americans.
You know, that History Guardians group is one of the groups that is trying to make sure that we hold Democrats accountable for the lies they told. And I want to be very clear about this. If you remember it, back when the monuments were being torn down in 2020, when the American Taliban was on the march, and I do mean that, the American Taliban, people who say, I don't like this, this doesn't reflect the new version of where we are, so we're going to erase it. We're going to take it down. But remember what they told you to try to gain your confidence, and they lied. They said these things don't belong on a major public street. They belong where? In museums, on battlefields, and in cemeteries. And a lot of normal people who are looking for compromise, who want to get along, who, have concerns about the Civil War, but don't really want to refight the Civil War. We're like, okay, we'll go along with that. What did the Democrats do? What did the radicals do? They lied flat out to your face. They took the statues, in Richmond's case, from Monument Avenue, and they stuck them down at the toilet water plant, the wastewater treatment plant, which was symbolic. I promise you that was very deliberately done to insult everybody who was concerned about what happened on Monument Avenue. They're still sitting down there, except for the ones that they've carted off to museums in California to talk about how evil and awful Southerners are. That's another symbolic thing that they've done to insult everybody from Virginia who is even remotely a preservationist, a historian, a traditionalist. And in the case of the statue that was already in a cemetery, in Arlington National Cemetery, on the graves of dead Confederate soldiers, I'm really not interested in debating the Civil War. If you've got an opinion about the Confederacy, okay. I'm not interested in debating the Confederacy. I'm not interested in revisiting the Civil War. I'm interested in looking forward and putting us in a great place where everybody, white, black, young, old, Jew, Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, I mean, that everybody could do well. And to me, every minute we spend debating the Civil War kind of undermines that effort. But the American Taliban, led by the radicals here in Richmond, some of them about to take bureaucratic positions in Abigail Spanberger's new administration. I mean, it's just a retread of all of the horrible Ralph Northam people. They tore down the statue in the cemetery. I mean, how often are you going to allow these people to lie right to your face before you get angry and say, we're not tolerating this anymore? I told you this is what was going to happen, that they were lying and trying to make it seem like you were going to be moderate. You were going to join them in moderation. Let's compromise. When you compromise with radical leftists, you're going to get screwed. You're going to get stomped on. And, I'm Mr. Middle of the Road. I'm trying to prevent a civil war. I'm trying to prevent conflict. I'm trying to make sure that what we have witnessed for the last decade, where innocent people are abused and mistreated, that doesn't happen anymore. Let's not allow that to happen. But, at some point you wake up and you go, gosh, I'm doing everything I can to find a compromise that's real. And it doesn't seem like you're doing that. It seems like you're playing me, right? How many times you got to get robbed in Times Square before you realize these people who are asking me for money for the bus and then don't get on a bus, these people who are playing cards out here, that it's all rigged to steal from you, to take from you, to humiliate you, to denigrate you, and to, in the larger scheme of things, to discriminate against you. At some point, you got to wake up to that and deal with it. And deal with it kind of aggressively, not hostile, not violent. I mean, I really am worried that that's where we're headed. We can't let that happen. I don't want our people. Listen, if the conservatives go into the streets, all the guys and women who've been in the military who actually know how to use a gun, if they go in the streets, we got a big problem. And I don't want that to happen. And I'm really worried that we're on the verge of that happening. So let's take a step back and hold people accountable for their lies, but stop it from going into that type of conflict, because that isn't going to work out well for any of us. And I've lived in places where seriously that was happening, where I was sitting on the street having a coffee as a consultant, and suddenly the tear gas comes and the bullets start flying. There's a fire over here. There's a Molotov cocktail being thrown in the window. And I'm sitting there like, holy cow, what have I walked into? Let's not let that happen in our society. Someone who's been around the world, who is now the chief correspondent for Fox News in Washington. You'll see him every weekend on his program on the Fox News channel, is Mike Emanuel, who I've known for years. We both started out as kind of rookie reporters in Waco, Texas.
That's right.
Way back when. Mike Emanuel is with us this morning. I really appreciate you joining us. Is anybody paying attention in D.C. to the situation in Virginia? We have a new governor coming in. It stands out when the other governor's races were all last year. This one stands out. Are you all tracking this? And good morning.
Yeah, I think there's no question, due to proximity, that we are closely monitoring what's going to be the change when Abigail Spanberger takes over. Obviously, we've followed Governor Youngkin for 4 years very closely. We're wondering what his next play may be down the road. But there's obviously a shift coming to Virginia. And if you're on the Democratic side of things, you're thinking that this is a good preview of what they expect to come in the midterms. We'll see how it plays out. That's really up to the voters. And there's still plenty of time between now and those midterms, but a lot of folks are anxious. Some are eager to see what Governor Spanberger does, and we expect that she will get off to a fast start.
Yeah. Does she interact with you all? I mean, during the campaign, did she come to Fox and do interviews? Some people are very deliberate that they won't speak to media that they think has an audience of conservatives or vice versa. I don't get that. I don't think that's wise, but What's the relationship been like?
She did some. She has done some over the years, but I would say cautious, cautious. So some Democrats love to come on because they realize we've got a massive audience, and it's a great opportunity if you can handle yourself to show the country and a lot of the conservative part of the country your skills and your intelligence. But others are more cautious. I'd put her in the kind of the cautious camp, even though obviously she was trying to win over some former Youngkin voters to come along with her. So she did it, here and there, but not that often.
You've watched a lot of campaigns across the country. I remember you covering George W. Bush, so we're going back and watching
sir.
people climb the ladder and assume authority. And you don't have to spare my feelings, Mike. Do you have a reaction? I've asked everybody in this first week as to what happened in 2025 to Virginia Republicans. Objectively, Virginia Republicans largely failing to take office, Democrats succeeding in huge numbers, almost record numbers. What do you think took place?
Well, look, I think there are a lot of folks who are voting in reaction to the president's first year. And there may have been some people who were middle of the road who were like, all right, yeah, let's try something different. We weren't thrilled with Biden. And maybe some of the stuff that's happened in the first year was a little further than they wanted to go. And so you see voters essentially turn out to say, all right, let's course correct. I didn't want to go that far. And I'm thinking of, candidly, I'm thinking of some of the immigration actions. I think people voted to secure the border. People voted to throw out murderers, violent criminals, gang members, that sort of thing. But I think they're looking at some of it. Whether you got a housekeeper, who's trying to make a few bucks cleaning hotel rooms, or a landscaper trying to make a few bucks cutting lawns. Like, did they vote to throw those people out of the country? And so I think some of that was reaction to what they may see as overreach. Look, I think a lot of folks objectively would say that Winsome Earle Sears is a lovely woman, but wasn't the strongest candidate. And so, and I'll let Virginia voters say what they thought of her, but I think that's what a lot of people in Washington are taking away, that maybe she wasn't the strongest person at the top of the ticket. And so you combine maybe, some folks wanting to send a message to Washington by voting a particular way, and then not thrilled with the voice at the top of the ticket. And it was a big trouble for the GOP side.
Yeah, a lot of people seem to like the idea of deportation, but they don't want to cut on the TV and see what they're seeing right now. The sausage making is always a turn off to the people who have feelings, but they don't want to get involved in the middle of it. What do you think of DOJ and the government shutdown? Gosh, Mike, you've watched a lot of government shutdowns, and it just, no matter what the actual circumstances are, Republicans always get blamed. Is that reactionary of me, or do you think that's true?
No, you're 100% right, because Republicans are the party that says less government. We need less government. Get out of the lives of the American people and that sort of thing. And so typically when there's a shutdown, they go, oh, it's the Republicans' fault. And it's interesting because, I wonder how much a lot of people are paying attention these days as they, stream stuff in their homes. Sometimes Netflix may be a little more fun than some of the political back and forth. And so if you're not really paying attention, did you think, well, Republicans control the White House, the Senate, and the House, so maybe it's their fault for the government shutdown this past fall? But clearly, Democrats were moving the goalposts. This was a straight continuing resolution to continue funding the government. And then all of a sudden, the Obamacare subsidies came into the debate. And so, who got the ultimate blame there? I think polling suggests they're not thrilled particularly with either party at the moment. But what I thought looked like the Democrats were shutting it down. There was a lot of mixed messaging there, and I think a lot of people probably just tuned it out, and poll numbers for both sides are suffering as a result.
Well, it's interesting you bring up Netflix. I was telling producer Dan yesterday, reminiscing about 2020, that there were three things that saved us during COVID from riots in the streets: Uber Eats,
Yeah.
Netflix, and Zoom calls.
Yeah.
Because if any one of those had not been a part of the mix, I think people would have freaked out. But suddenly life became very easy to stay home, and the triggers for mass riots, no kidding, and maybe government spending so that you didn't feel the actual impact. That's interesting. We're talking in Virginia about the Virginia Democrats tearing up the constitutional amendment which prevented the politicians from drawing their own lines.
Yep.
And Virginia voters, Republicans and Democrats alike, said, hey, we don't like this petty partisanship. We don't like the hyper partisanship. Let's let a commission draw the lines. I think it was probably the example for the country of what to do. But now the Texas and other states have decided that they're going to do this mid-decade redraw. There's a movement which will probably pass in full today in the Virginia General Assembly to undo that constitutional amendment. Voters still have to vote on it. What are you hearing in Washington about this back and forth, both in Virginia and with these other states that are? I don't support this. I don't think this is the smart thing to do. Even though I'm a Republican, I'd like to see Republicans hold control. It seems like this is really opening a Pandora's box.
Well, and I saw some reporting suggesting that the Virginia Democrats were looking at a proposal that would either make it 10-1 in terms of Democratic districts to one Republican district in Virginia, or 9-2 or something like that. And I guess it's 6-5 now, if my memory serves
That's right.
correctly. So look, when the majority is single digits, that's why all these states are becoming so important. And so President Trump looked at Indiana and he thought, red state, maybe we could squeeze a few more seats out. In Texas, maybe we can squeeze some more out. And then Gavin Newsom's like, fine, you want to play that game? We'll do that in California on the other side. And so, it's a slippery slope, and it's certainly producing a lot of anxiety. And I think you're potentially looking in some places like some good lawmakers maybe out of work because the map was suddenly changed against them. And so it's a scary time, I think, in terms of, the majority is critical come November. If you lose the majority, if you're a Republican, you're looking at hearings every day on Capitol Hill with Hakeem Jeffries as the speaker, and pick your Democrat chairing whatever committee, bringing up, Pete Hegseth for questioning one day, Kristi Noem the next day, Rubio for whatever the next day, Stephen Miller the day after that, and it just day after day after day of hearings digging into everything the Trump administration has done so far. So that's why when you hear President Trump is expected to be out on the campaign trail, like he's on the ballot, I think in a lot of ways it's because he's the one who stands to potentially suffer the most in the final 2 years of his term if Hakeem Jeffries is the speaker and or Chuck Schumer or some other Democrat is the Senate majority leader. They're not going to get anything done on the Republican side of things, and there's going to be a lot of uncomfortable oversight committee hearings and that sort of thing, dragging senior administration officials to the Hill and making them must-see TV for certainly the left of the country, and trying to damage the Republican brand going into 2028.
Yeah, and the drumbeat of impeachment. The Trump people, they got 10 months to get stuff done before they're holding on for dear life to make it the next 24 months without actually being removed from office, I think, depending on how this thing goes. Now, Mike, I never want to put you in a tough spot. I know you're a serious journalist. I really don't even know what your politics are, and I've known you for many, many years. I could take a guess, partially based on you being Fox, but I don't know. I don't know what your politics are. So I'm going to ask you a question.
Good. Mission accomplished.
Yeah, right. And you're one of the rare people out there that I can actually say that about, and I'm sincere in that.
Thank you.
So I don't want to put you on the spot, and you can dodge this if you want to, but Nick Shirley, this 23-year-old, I don't know whether he's an activist or an independent journalist. He certainly seems to have broken a major story.
Yeah.
And it does make me wonder why some of the national outlets, with their resources and their very experienced journalists, didn't catch that story and break it earlier, unless I missed it. Maybe they did. And I'll be honest with you, I keep Googling here in Virginia to see whether anyone's going to go and try to find similar examples of fraud in the Commonwealth of Virginia. I'm not seeing that kind of legwork being done. Am I missing it? Are the networks telling their people, hey, let's stay away from this? What's your assessment of, and this is a journalism question, not so much a political question.
Yeah, I have been shocked by the coverage of it. You talk about other states, like how far does this go? If it's $9 billion in Minnesota, like what could it be in California? What could it be in lots of other big states with big budgets? I give the young man a lot of credit for going door to door and seeing what's going on at these places. And I'll never forget the sign of the Learning Center being misspelled. Ding, 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 ding. Maybe that was a hint there. But yeah, it's been.
Do you think he got it right based on what we know right now?
Maybe not every daycare center or every education center is fraudulent, but I think there's clear evidence that there's plenty of it. I mean, a bunch of people have already been indicted, and I guess criminal cases are being processed as we speak. And
the governor stepped aside from re-election. That seems pretty big. Yeah, right.
Yeah, and as you know, like career politicians, getting them to step aside ever, it must be bad. It must be bad, and/or his base came to him and said, "There's no way you can win." And so, so he stepped aside, and I'm curious to see what happens with the Attorney General, Keith Ellison, in Minnesota. Where's he been over the past years as this has been going on? And there have been allegations there, and we'll follow the facts where they go. But I think one, there's been a lot going on in the country, obviously, right. Over the past year or so. So to give my industry a little bit of a break, I think we've been chasing lots of other fascinating stories. I don't think we ignored it for sure, but were we fully aware of what was going on, and was the local coverage as strong as it could have been? Like if there were front page headlines on the Minneapolis newspaper, maybe we would have all taken more notice of it. And so maybe that reflects kind of a decline in local coverage as well. But I give him credit for catching all of our attention, certainly, and reminding us that there's an opportunity here to do some digging and to follow the facts where they go and see who's prosecuted and who may be convicted, and then dig deeper in all these states to see if it goes much further than just Minnesota.
Let me ask you briefly, and then I know you got to run for your next interview. The international coverage, which is outrageously expensive to send one person or a crew and ensure their safety, especially in these tinderbox locations. How are you all making the decisions about what to cover on the fringe? I guess you can't actually be in Iran, but on the fringe of what's happening with Iran, how do you vet what we're seeing with that video that hits the internet to make sure it's real? And I want to tell you, when I was in Kuwait and Bahrain, which was during the Arab Spring, there was a lot of fake stuff, even then before AI started, that I kept encountering, and I would go to the location and say, this is fake, or this happened 10 years ago, and it's being presented to the international press as if it happened today, and it's having the emotional reaction that the insurgency wants it to have. How do you all look at this and cover what's transpiring around the world right now? A lot of hostility.
Yeah, absolutely. It takes obviously good old-fashioned journalism, but it's scarier than ever because you mentioned AI, and I don't tinker with it that much, but I've had people send me video clips and it's AI, and it's scary because.
Can you tell?
I couldn't tell in a couple of them. I'm like, this looks legit, and so if you can't trust what your eyes are seeing, that's a scary thing, because that was quite often the first thing we would use, like observe and see what you see, and does that look bad, or does that look dangerous or whatever. And then if you can't really tell if it's real or not, that's horrifying in a lot of respects, because you're afraid you may step out and go too far in saying something and realize you were duped. So I think a lot of my colleagues, I'm not in all the conversations about where we're going in the world, to be fair, to be candid. But I think we try to, stay ahead of the news and make sure if, like, for example, we're watching closely what's happening in Iran, and the president's been pretty clear that he's watching it very closely too. So are we close to some more action in Iran? And so I think our Middle East teams are obviously on high alert for the potential of breaking news. They've been on high alert since the October 7th attacks, obviously. And so,
you guys haven't pulled people out, right? Have you redoubled or added folks to the Middle East beat?
We do send in reserves, experienced people based in the U.S. who have been there, done that over the years. And so when Trey Yingst, who does a phenomenal job, needs a breather every once in a while, we have some veteran correspondents here in the U.S. that we can send in and pinch hit until he's up and ready to go. We've got a London team also that we can send into the Middle East as backfill and that sort of thing, who are veteran international correspondents. So we find a way to get it covered, but it's been nonstop. It's been a nonstop story, and at any moment it feels like it could be a massive story, a new chapter going forward. And so I think there's a lot of discussion internally about making sure we got it covered and we're ready to go whenever the commander-in-chief here in Washington may make a decision to go. Or if there's an opportunity to get into Iran at some point, then to see the protests for ourselves and to tell the world about them. And so, it's a very complex coverage. How should I put it? It's a very complex issue to cover. Very difficult challenges. Obviously, security is a big concern for the boss types. For our teams, making sure that they are able to do their jobs, but we want them all to come home healthy and safe. It's a complex environment and a difficult story.
A treacherous place to be if you're a journalist, because you are a marked target yourself, and then finding people who can go and still be objective and not become cynical or take one side or the other in their heart, but objectively analyze what's happening and then discern what's true and what's not true in a place where, I can say this, having lived over there, lying is just a part of daily life. I mean, I'm sorry that that's the conclusion I reached. I didn't show up in the Middle East with that attitude, but when I left, I thought, damn, I mean, I have to go check outside the window to make sure the sun is up if somebody tells me the sun is up, because I just can't count on the Western mindset. If you're a journalist who wants to be objective, that's really tough.
Well, I'll tell you, when I went to Afghanistan multiple times and Iraq, I felt like bad things can happen to good people in dangerous places, but I felt like we were also supposed to be off limits, where we had press on our body armor, and so I was hopeful that we were off limits. Now those rules have all changed, and a lot of times if they see press, they'll take a shot at you, recognizing it'll get them coverage around the world if they kill some journalists. And so it's a more dangerous environment than ever to cover some of these huge stories affecting our globe.
Well, this is when you're happy on Sunday morning that you're sitting in the chair in Washington with the Capitol behind you.
And you're a great guest, so we'll have to do that again.
Listen, I hope I'll be able to come up and visit with you. Mike Emanuel, I'm happy to see you in person and online. Thank you for joining us on the Read Revolution today. And you stay safe and tell everybody hi up there. Thank you.
Honored to be here and wishing you great success with this. It's pretty cool. I'm used to just talking to you on the phone, but now we got a whole visual element to it. You're kicking butt. Congratulations, my friend.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it very much. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We will come back, and I'll fill you in on the latest details on what appears to be anti-ICE training happening in the next two or 3 days here in Western Henrico. What in the heck is going on with that? Is that true? I want to put the asterisk out there that just getting emails, and I never just trust emails, So, but I feel like I should sound the alarm, especially, and I want to be fair to Abigail Spanberger too. She's going to become governor on Saturday. Are we going to see a really dramatic change at noon on Saturday where suddenly Virginia is hostile to law enforcement, where they give up and start fighting against law enforcement because they hate Trump so much? Come on. That cannot be allowed to occur. Reasonable people have to take charge here. And I'm hoping Abigail Spanberger is one of them. I know a lot of her friends are not. They're the ones who will be out there raising hell, putting themselves in harm's way, and then blaming the cops when something bad happens. We'll talk about that when we return in just a moment on the Reed Revolution. Okay, we're back on the Reed Revolution. It's Wednesday. The Virginia General Assembly gavels into session today. It's a pretty bad day for Republicans who have to stay in the fight, even though they're going to be outnumbered pretty dramatically with a bunch of crazy radicals who, the voters sent. I have to have respect for the voters. I'm frustrated with the voters, but I have to have respect for the voters. But if you think I'm giving up what I believe in because of the results of one election, you can think again. The question is, how do you go out and articulate and argue your positions in a way that's reasonable, that will bring people over to your side? I think the Democrats may well wind up helping me, though. This is really looking at the the glass of water as half full instead of half empty. I think you're going to see in these first 2 or 3 weeks of the General Assembly session, maybe even today, a radical push for some really, really crazy left-wing ideas that the average Virginian won't sign on to. There'll be people who will advocate for dramatically higher taxes, and there are people who are economically illiterate who think that the government mandating minimum wage and increasing that dramatically, or increasing it every single year. Have you ever run a business? Have you ever been associated with running a business? If the government is telling you that the minimum wage has to increase every single year, you better figure out how you're going to grow your business at least that rate, if not more, if you want to keep the employees you've got. And guess who that hurts? The rich guy can cash out and move to Florida. In fact, most of the rich people I know in Richmond, and quite frankly in Northern Virginia, already have a place in Florida that they go to. They're probably there right now, or they're coming back for a week to make sure everything's running okay. And then in the middle of the winter, in February and March, they're down in Palm Beach. They're down in Miami. They're down in Fort Lauderdale, St. Petersburg. So, you've got to be a total moron when it comes to human nature if you don't think that the people who run these businesses, who have lots of money, can't just hit eject and leave, especially if they've got money in the bank. At some point you look up and you say, hey, it's not worth it anymore. I don't want to deal with a union. I don't want to deal with some thug from New Jersey who's trying to tell me I have to run my business, who is litigating every conflict in my office. I can't deal with it. It's not worth it. If you've already got millions of dollars and you're the type of person who opens a business, and the government of Abigail Spanberger and Ghazala Hashmi, who's never done anything in her life other than stand at a podium and read poetry and lecture us about how awful America is, and Jay Jones, who you just hope won't shoot you in the back of the head if he gets mad. If that leadership starts micromanaging every element of your business, at least Don Scott, the Speaker of the House, has been a drug dealer. He's run a business, so I'll give him credit for that. I'm To me, I would disqualify someone like that from leading the state of Virginia, but that's who Democrats put in charge. They always go with the criminal, and they probably feel really good about themselves. And then they shame you into saying, "Oh, that's great." One of the things that I was disappointed with Republicans is they didn't have the guts to stand up against that and say, maybe being a drug dealer, the voters may send that person to the legislature, but we shouldn't put them in charge of the House of Delegates. They were too scared. Why? Because they don't want to be called racist. I learned 20 some years ago, I could say something very benign. And of course, you're going to call me names. I mean, they call me a homophobe, So I'm sorry, once you get to that point of absolute absurdity, it doesn't bother me anymore. Call me whatever you want to call me. I know who I am, and the people who know me know who I am, and I'm standing up for what's right. And I don't give a damn whether you call me a name, because it bounces off of me like Superman. Seriously. So I'm going to call these people out. They certainly didn't hold their fire during my campaign. They impugned me and demeaned me and called me all sorts of names and made up lies about me. So if you think that I'm going to shrink in the corner and go, "Oh my God, I don't want to be," you've already done as much damage as you can possibly do to me. And that's one reason I love this podcast, because I'm going to stick it to you every time you do something bad. And I'm going to call you out for your bad behavior. And if you're a business person and you want the state government of Virginia to mandate that every employee you have, whether it's the vice president for marketing or the 16-year-old who pops popcorn, gets to have paid leave, family medical leave, vacation, I mean, they're going to micromanage your business and increase the cost of running your business dramatically, under the presumption that you're making so much money that you'll just figure out a way to do it. I got news for everybody. These people are leaving. They're leaving if we do that. And it hadn't happened yet. And so I think it's important for me, even though I wasn't elected, and that hurts my feelings, but okay, I wasn't elected. I admit that. It's still important for me to be out here and advocate, because once those things happen in Virginia, and once the folks who run these businesses sell their house on Monument Avenue, or sell their house in Windsor Farms, or sell their house in Goochland, sell their house in Hanover, where they have relative comfort, and say, "You know what, I'm just going to live in Florida, and I don't need that business in Virginia anymore. Hate to leave. I'll come see my kids if there's any, but I'm out." Once that occurs, you don't get those people back in this generation. You don't. And everybody has gotten very comfortable with the fact that Virginia is relatively economically successful. Part of that is all the federal government money, which is fake. Having federal jobs, and I was a federal worker for a little while. Alonzo was a federal worker. My dad was a federal worker. I'm not beating up on federal workers, but if you're collecting a government salary, that is not the same as a salary that's coming from a private business that is working on its own to generate revenue. The money that you're getting is tax money from the people who did the business, from the people who took the risk, who started the business. Now, I'm not beating up on you. It's not your fault. Everybody needs a job. So if you've got one of those government jobs, like I did, I took the government job. I needed it. I did a good job. I tried to be very conscientious. I'm sure most of you do too. So please don't think I'm beating up on you, but I also have to acknowledge reality. Taking a government paycheck is not the same as a paycheck with a private business. And it's so interesting that all the know-it-alls who are assembled down at the Capitol today are going to start trying to micromanage the people who actually pay their salary. The people who stay up at 3 a.m. thinking, "How in the hell do I make this payroll?" You think anybody at the state government's worried about making payroll? No. They just tax you more to make their payroll, and then they give themselves a big pay raise. They vote themselves a pay raise. If you want a pay raise in a private business, then you have to do something that means more people buy your product or buy your service. And that's tough. That's difficult. That actually requires some ingenuity. Not just, yes, Madam Speaker, Mr. Speaker, Madam President, Your Excellency, the governor, vote and sign a bill to give us more money. Very different things. And I think we have lost sight of that in Virginia. And you need leaders who actually get it, who appreciate that, and don't have contempt for the business leaders who are out there. And that's what you got down there right now. It's a lot of people who see you as cattle and see you as farm animals who will just generate money for them. And you live in their little pen, and they can do to you whatever they want. And I'm afraid, I'm very concerned that Virginia is going to wake up in 2 years, 4 years. I mean, I hope this little blip here is a short-lived one. And we're going to find that we've driven off the people who are actually generating revenue. And then we really are going to be at the mercy of the federal government. And guess what? The federal government's broke. $38 trillion in debt. I got maybe 30 years left to live. I'm not counting on the federal government being in a stable, good position for the next 30 years. I don't know if you are, but it's I can read a spreadsheet. $38 trillion in debt seems like a problem to me that's going to hit at some point. And these idiots who are economically illiterate, who we have put in charge of the economy, seem to think that printing more money is the solution. It is not the solution. And we can look around the world and see that it's not the solution. And if you are living on a daily basis, monthly basis, if you're paying your bills based on some check arriving from the government, I would recalibrate. I mean, anybody gives me money, I'm not sending it back. So I don't blame you for taking advantage of the programs that are out there. I'm not beating up on you for that. You need the money, you need the money, but I wouldn't count on it always being there. I would not count on that check always arriving, because something's going to happen here, and the game is going to change. And guess who's going to get screwed? The little guy. The little guy who believed the Democrats that they were going to look after them. You're the one that's going to be left without a chair. You're the one that's going to be in trouble. The rich people are going to be okay. The Democrats who are in government, they're going to get their government paycheck one way or another. It's going to be, I mean, even when we have the government shut down, they get back pay, for God's sake. I wish I had that situation. When the alarm goes off in the morning, there are plenty of mornings I think, oh yeah, I don't really want to do this today. It's not hard work, but I don't really want to do this today. It's the lazy factor that everybody has. But if you got to pay your bills, you get up and do it. The government folks are going to get their money one way or another. And you got to watch this stuff, because it could go sideways on us really, really fast. Producer Dan joins us now, as he does at the end of every program, and we'll go a little bit over it here today. Surprise. Oh, and you're wearing your Steelers t-shirt.
Yes, I am. Let
me give him a second.
Steeler
He
Nation.
wants to talk about the firing of the coach.
Steeler Nation, our long national nightmare is over. And Abby, you're off the hook. You don't have to find Mike Tomlin a job anymore. Don't have to make him your new press secretary. If you still want to make Art Rooney, head of some Irish Heritage Task Force thing or whatever else, go ahead and do that. We still got to get rid of him somehow. But yes, our long national nightmare is over. Go Steelers.
I just think it's now. I'm not beating up on you, Dan, but does everybody get this?
I never thought I'd see the day. I thought I'd die before Mike Tomlin left.
There's so many people. Everybody who comes to Richmond, in my experience from Pittsburgh, assumes that everybody in Richmond is tracking the Steelers more than just a cursory, oh, there's this. I mean, I've known so many people who, like you, I don't know, you've got the t-shirt, you probably got a Steelers tattoo.
I do not. I have no tattoos. No tattoos.
Okay.
I'm against
Good.
tattoos. So yes, no tattoos.
Are you? Yeah.
Yeah, I can't stand it. I've already told my nieces I'm going to disown them if either one of them gets a tattoo.
That's tough.
I've said,
that's right.
Well, hey, Donald Trump told Barron. Remember that video on CNN? He's like, Barron, no tattoos, okay?
No drinking, no tattoos.
No
but
drinking.
Look, everybody thinks
straight
that
A's, no tattoos.
you all think that everybody cares about the Steelers. I don't give a damn, man. I mean, I'm letting you talk about it. Okay, if you're passionate about it, there are a lot of people who are excited about it. I guess.
Do I dare say this that maybe brings it into the realm of what we talk about? I hope that the Steelers will choose for their next coach the best candidate for the job, regardless of whether he is white or black, gay or straight,
no
male or
DEI
female.
hiring.
No DEI
No DEI.
hires, please.
Pick the best person, no
Let's
matter who
pick
they
the
are.
best person. I don't care who he is, as long as he is the best candidate for the job. And honestly, I don't think that we got the best candidate for the job the last time around.
Well, I'm
People
rooting
will say,
for
"Oh, we never had a losing
one-legged-
season," but
I'm
you know.
rooting. I'm rooting for a one-legged lesbian. In the wheelchair. I think that would.
If she
that
can
would
win
really
playoff
break some-
games and get us
that would break
the
some
stairway
ground.
to 7, I'll be happy. So
All right,
more
let's
power
go
to her.
back to serious stuff in Washington. And Ketanji Brown Jackson, the Supreme Court justice, and there were a lot of people who were very hostile about her. I do think Joe Biden was a fool for saying that he was going to start out, flat out. I'm going to nominate a black woman. You may, in your head, think, I would like to find the perfect person, and it fits this demographic. Okay. I think anybody who's ever been in a hiring situation imagines in their head who would be the perfect person for this. And when you're a political person, you always think, how will this play politically? I mean, it's just reality. I talk about how I got to live in the real world. The real world is you have to contemplate how these choices in personnel will play politically. There are probably plenty of people that Abigail Spanberger would really like to hire for her cabinet, and she had to choose not to. Oddly enough, the ones that she's chosen, and we should go through this list sometime, are people that I think are highly questionable, like the guy who wrote the memo saying, we should be tracking Catholics who go to the Latin Mass. What in the hell? I mean, that should be a disqualifier, but okay. Abigail's chosen that person. So Joe Biden picks Ketanji Brown Jackson. She didn't strike me as overly impressive. I guess on paper she's got the credentials, but yesterday, even some Democrats seemed to be concerned about the way she presented herself in this Supreme Court hearing, where they're examining whether there's a right for transgender men who pretend to be women should be in women's sports. Can we play?
I got a clip of that. Yeah, let's see here.
Good.
This notion that this is really just about the definition of we accept that you can separate boys and girls, and we are now looking at the definition of a girl, and we're saying only people who were girl assigned at birth qualify.
I think it's so bizarre that a Supreme Court justice seems to be, and I don't think I'm taking this out of context, seems to have accepted this new nomenclature, this new philosophy, and this new language that I never voted on, and I certainly don't accept. Like when I hear somebody say male assigned at birth, I want to be honest with you. I discredit everything else that comes out of your mouth because you're a liar. That is not what is happening. You are a male, and you may feel like a female, and we may lose our minds as a society and allow you to parade around town in a dress. I mean, personally, other than how it impacts my niece and nephew and how it impacts us as a society, I don't care what you do. As long as you pay your own bills and you suffer the consequences of whatever good decisions or stupid decisions you make, I would prefer not to be involved in any of that. But, the left won't allow us to live like that. They've got to force you to accept this new arrangement that they dreamed up, that they fantasized, that they created. And am I wrong? Did she just accept that as, the society has now moved on and we are going with this male assigned at birth thing? I think so. I think that's
it's bizarre, and especially in light of what happened at her confirmation hearing. And I have the video of that if you want me to play that really quickly. As a reminder
where they
for
ask
everybody.
her.
Yeah,
do it. Where they ask her the tough question that she can't answer.
The really, really tough question.
Provide a definition for the word woman.
Can I provide a definition?
Mm-hmm.
No,
Yeah.
I can't.
You can't?
not in
Okay.
this context.
So you
I'm not a
believe the meaning
biologist.
of the word woman is so unclear and controversial that you can't give me a definition?
Senator, in my work as a judge, what I do is I address disputes. If there's a dispute about a definition, people make arguments, and I look at the
All right.
law and I decide.
I mean, look, this society is gone if we're actually having that debate. And this is why, I mean, that would have been a disqualifier for me right there.
Oh, sure.
And it has it has nothing to do with her hairdo or her skin color or her background. And I mean, if you're that stupid, and I'm saying the word stupid, if you are that brainwashed and stupid that you're going to engage in that conversation and say, I'm not a biologist, give me a break. Give me a break. I mean, this is fundamental. There isn't a debate. It's a debate of how we as a society deal with people's behavior. That's the debate we're having. And I'm prepared to have that conversation. If you, if you think you're a woman or if you feel feminine and you're actually a male, I don't think everybody's got to dress up like G.I. Joe and storm around town and drink beer and play rugby and football. I mean, you don't have to. That does not validate who you are in this society. And there are a lot of cultures where you, to have any standing, you kind of have to put on, not that show, but something similar in order not to get the you know what kicked out of you. I don't want to live in a society like that. I mean, look at me. I appreciate the fact that people let me and Alonzo live our lives without hassling us for the most part. That wasn't the case last year, but whatever. When we can navigate this, but what we shouldn't do is lie to each other about something that's just factually, biologically not true. And to have a Supreme Court justice who seems to have bought into something that is factually not true, that is a total philosophical belief system, is very concerning. And now she's demonstrated a couple of different times, except it's the opposite end. During her hearing, she can't provide you with the definition of a woman.
Yeah.
But then during this hearing yesterday,
She's enlightened now.
she's enlightened and she's talking about cisgender, which is a totally fabricated, made-up, psycho babble word.
Yeah.
To try to navigate this.
Why
are we all tolerating it?
Yeah, cisgender. What in the world is that? Beware of murkiness. It is the tool of the dishonest. Beware of murkiness. It is the tool of the dishonest.
They're trying to come up, fabricate nomenclature that is not based in truth.
Yeah. Well,
what do you call somebody who's a male who wears a dress? A cross-dresser?
I know what I'd call
somebody who is. Huh?
I know what I'd call them, but it's not something I just.
Be nice, but I mean, you've got okay. I'm not here to police what you wear. Now, if you work in my office, if you work for me, we have standards in the way we want people to present themselves, and that I'm not going to compromise that just because of your personal feelings. But okay, I mean, I'm not really interested in it. I don't want to be involved in that. Why are you dragging me into this? But for a government official to accept this completely fabricated, non-factual assertion that you are a woman because you pretend to be. I mean, I used to say on WRVA, and I got all this British stuff in here. At some point, we'll do the little video tour of this office. Right. I've got the royal crown here. If I take that crown off, and it weighs about 6 pounds, with fake jewels in it. It's a replica of a coronation crown. If I take that off and put it on my head and tell you that I'm the King of England, I'm not the King of England. And, if it's Halloween, you might say, oh, great costume, John. You look just like the King of England. But I'm not the King of England. Right. If I show up at Buckingham Palace and say, open the gates, I'm the King of England, I assume that reasonable people would say,
no, you're not.
You need to back away. Go to your costume party or go take pictures with the tourists in the park, but you're not the King of England. This mindset that's on parade in Washington now, and in most medical schools, it seems, and in most universities, is that delusional and crazy, where logically you would have to say, well, John has convinced himself he's the King of England, and look, he's got that crown, and he's presenting himself as the King of England. And who are we to discern what makes one the King of England or not? So we must give him access to Buckingham Palace, and we must treat him like the King of England. I mean, most of those people probably want to kill the King of England. So, but
Well, John,
I mean, this is insanity.
maybe-
that we're
maybe
indulging,
most
and we
in-
got to stop that.
Maybe most importantly in our current world, places like China and Russia, they are laughing at us over
They
this.
are. The good point. Yeah, our enemies on the
we're
world
playing
stage.
right into their hands. This is exactly where
Our
they want
enemies
us.
on the world
is-
stage,
yeah.
while they train their kids to do
Yes.
100 push-ups
Yep.
and be physically fit instead of fat slobs, and while they teach their kids to do advanced mathematics and siphon them off, like, you're good at math, you're going to be, and I mean, I'm not advocating for this, but this is what they're doing. They're preparing for a conquest.
Yeah.
Whether we want to admit it or not, that is what they're preparing for.
And
We are
we're
not.
worried about being triggered. Yeah.
About something that's a lie. I think that's a problem. I think that's a problem. All right. Well, I've gone over. It's 11:15. If you're watching this live, it's now 11:15 in the morning. I hope you are listening to us on the podcast, which you can listen to anytime. If you go to Spotify or Apple, you can download our daily broadcast and listen to it anytime you want to while you're walking the dog. If you can't sleep, early in the morning as you drive into work, you can listen to this podcast. And I certainly appreciate everybody who's watching us on Facebook and X. And we're going to be expanding the social media outlets where this program is seen live and where you can watch it after the fact, starting next week. So you'll need to stay with us.
And one important thing that we need to mention about tomorrow. What are you doing tomorrow morning?
Oh, you know what? I'm so glad. Thank you, Dan. I almost forgot about this. Tomorrow, I'll be up super early. It's like the old days. And I'll be on the John Fredericks radio network moderating the debate between the four people who are seeking to be the chairperson of the Republican Party of Virginia. And you won't be able to vote on that unless you're a member of the State Central Committee, kind of the board of directors of the Republican Party. David Bodkins, who is a member of that group, who's kind of a notable Henrico person, he will be the co-moderator of this. And it'll give you, if you're a Republican or if you're a Democrat trying to do some Oppo research, you'd be smart. Watch this broadcast on the John Fredericks Network, and then immediately following the debate, I'll be offering some commentary here on our program at 10 o'clock. So from 8 to 10, 2 hours on the John Fredericks program, I'll be moderating this chairman's debate. Cameron Hamilton, Lynn Bogle, Mike Clancy, Nick Profit. I'm not going to go into all of their bios, but those are the four people who've put themselves up to be the new leader of the Republican Party of Virginia. And gosh, I mean, the party needs some strong leadership. And after what's happened in the last year, and we'll see how they answer some of the tough questions. I also should mention, Producer Dan, that we now have an email. I mean, we were getting so many kind of random calls from people who wanted to advertise or people who wanted to be supportive, occasionally a hater, you know how that works. So I hope you will be in touch with us at thereedrevolution@gmail.com. The Reed Revolution, you know, my last name is R-E-I-D, so the Reed Revolution @gmail.com. If you can always put a comment in the chat here if we're live, but if you have a suggestion, or look, if there's a question you think I should ask one of these four people tomorrow, you can send me a note this afternoon, the Reed Revolution @gmail.com. I got 2 full hours with the candidates, and I hope to get to a lot of the questions. I think I'm going to ask them how they're going to fundraise. I'll ask them the same question I've asked a lot of our guests here. What do you think went wrong in 2025? You know, maybe not a critique so much of the candidates, but structurally what went wrong. What do you think the Democrats are doing in Virginia that Republicans should be aware of and either emulate or match county by county across the state? I think that's an important question. I mean, the money thing is just so big. How do you raise the money to actually hire the staff? It's weird. Democrats don't seem to have a problem hiring staff to put them in Southwest Virginia, to put them in Chesapeake, to put them in Virginia Beach, here in Richmond. I mean, if they're about to do this ICE training, somebody's getting paid for that. I don't think that's all volunteer. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think so. They don't seem to have a problem with this funding component. So how do Republicans deal with that? And if you were suddenly put in charge, here's a big question for these 4 people tomorrow. What do you do with this April vote that appears likely to be happening on the constitutional amendments and the redistricting of the congressional districts? Huge, huge issue that whoever gets to be the chairperson is going to have to deal with right out of the box, and you're not going to have a lot of time to address it. What do? If that passes and it goes from 6 Democrats, 5 Republicans in the congressional delegation, 10 to 1, 10 Democrats, 1 Republican, that's a wipeout. So somebody's got to hit the ground running. If they do this vote on January 31st and you're inaugurated or, get the gavel that evening, you better be ready to go on February 1st. And what's the plan? I'm assuming that these guys have spent some time thinking about that. So I'm going to ask that question tomorrow. If there's anything you think we should ask, send me a note at The Reed Revolution @gmail.com. And I don't think it's premature for me to say, Dan, we've had a lot of people who've reached out who would like to be supportive of the broadcast. I have not set up the finances here because I wanted to get started and I don't want to be distracted. I mean, here's me not being a capitalist. I don't want to be distracted by the money. I should be distracted by. I check my bank account. I should be distracted by the money.
You and me both.
Maybe
brother.
that's a priority. But
Yeah.
we will be opening the show to advertisers next month. So I'm hopeful if you see this audience and kind of the huge reach that it's already getting across the state, and certainly here in Central Virginia, if you'd be interested in advertising
beyond.
your company or services, hit us up and let us know that you're interested in that, because at some point we'll have to flip the switch, and I'm not going to turn this into commercial radio. I'm not going to do PBS where I demand money from the taxpayer so that I can opine. That seems disingenuous and wrong, especially as PBS collapses on itself. But I'm also not going to turn this program, and I think, Dan, you agree with me, we don't want this to be 7 minutes of commercials and then 2 minutes of conversation,
Right.
followed by another 6 minutes of commercials. I mean, that is annoying, and I don't think people like it. So we're going to try
We had
to
enough
strike
complaints
the
about
right
that in our
balance.
previous iteration. Yeah.
Yeah,
Not that we
well.
had anything to do about that. Yeah.
And not that we're bringing them up. We don't want to say anything critical.
That's right. No.
Right, Dan?
Especially not I.
Right, Dan? We want to be really super positive about everybody, nothing negative.
That's right.
Unless you're a Democrat who's being inaugurated. All right. That's going to do it for us on The Reed Revolution. Shoot me a note at thereedrevolution@gmail.com. Watch and follow on Spotify and Apple. And I will see you bright and early tomorrow morning, right after the GOP chairman's debate. Have a great Wednesday, everybody.